Let's talk about prototypal inheritance. Does anyone know what prototypal inheritance means? I'm going to switch the camera at some point. Right. So prototypal inheritance is one of the most important aspects in JavaScript. It's the way the variables get resolved. Talking about inheritance, if you've done a bit of Java and these kind of languages, maybe you've heard that Java has something called class-based inheritance. So class-based inheritance is not the same as prototypal inheritance, but this is a further reading. That goes beyond the scope of this session to explain the differences between prototypal and class-based inheritance. Yeah, definitely. So So C# and Java, they are like German and whatever the people in Netherlands talk, right? Netherlandish, Dutch. Yeah, I would say that C# is to Java what Dutch is to German. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so let's talk about prototypal inheritance. I'm going to show you a problem. So if I got a variable called letUser, and if I got a pen that works, if I got the combination of both, so first name Peter, a classic, right? So if I do user dot first name, what will that return? Peter, right? And what if I do user dot last name? Undefined. That's correct. Yeah? This is something that probably is not surprising. But what I would like to explain a bit, or I will try to explain, is why. Why? Because even though that case is pretty trivial, I'll then bring some spices to make it a bit more complicated. So, in JavaScript, the way we resolve variables is based on the prototype chain. What the prototype chain is? The prototype chain essentially is a bunch of boxes that decide what value is returned on each scenario. In that particular case, our prototype chain has at least one element, more than one. We'll see what else do we have on the right-hand side. But for now, we just have first name, Peter. So the way this works is user.firstName. Is the first name property in this box? Yes, it is. Return it. Is last name property on this box? No. Is there any other box on the right-hand side? No, this is not really accurate, but we'll see. We'll see how and why we have more boxes on the right-hand side. Because we don't have that information anywhere here undefined. Yeah? That's the fundamentals of prototypal inheritance. However, let's change the example a bit. So now, what I'm having in here is I will have a new variable. The new variable will be a string. So let name equals Peter. So if I now return name, in other words, here we got name equals Peter, right? String. So if I return the name, what will it display? Peter, correct. But now, we start with the action here, actually. What if I display name.split? I guess we agree that returns an array. But I'm wondering if anybody understands why. Because in that box, Split. What's a split? Actually, I'll tell you something. Here, we are considering name is an object. Yeah? Name.split. We're considering name is an object, which a property, which is a method, split. But wait a minute. Name was a string. Now it's an object. What's going on here? Is it an object or is it a string? And why? It's an object. Why?
Because most things, as far as I know, in JavaScript are objects.
Yeah.
And because it doesn't find, well, obviously there's nothing local to name as we've defined it in the first line. Yeah. It then goes, okay, well, in terms of looking at it as an object, is the split function defined for it? Yeah. And it goes in the JavaScript underneath the magic and looks for split, and it has inherited it from the object type. Yep. And then it runs it.
That's a good answer. Actually, I don't know why you're not here splitting to the camera. Otherwise, you know these weird TV shows that people is uploading, but there is no one, right? This is just software. Right? Looks like I'm alone here, right? There's people behind me. Anyway, right. So yeah, so Java is fundamentally right. So the way this works is we try to do name.split. That information is clearly not here. But in JavaScript, we have always at least two boxes here. Yeah. So the first one is the variable itself, but then at least we have a second one, which is the, in that case, string prototype. String prototype means every string in JavaScript at the end of the day is an object with some properties on it. One of them is split. What else? String splice. Can we use a splice on the strings? What? Reverse. Can we use reverse on strings? I'm not sure, to be honest. Maybe. Yeah, maybe it's reverse. What? You're talking about very complicated examples. There is something much simpler. That's operations you do with the strings. Join. Wrong. Join is clearly wrong. Join applies on arrays. Correct. How do you change the case in JavaScript? Yeah. Whatever. Two uppercase, right? What else? Two lowercase. Yeah. So few. Yeah. So whenever we do name.split, name.to lowercase, name.to uppercase, name.whatever, that's the prototype chain. It first evaluates, do I have that property in the object or in the variable itself? Clearly not. Okay, no problem at all. Check on the next element, on the next box, on the right-hand side. Do I have a split here? Yes. Return it. Do I have two uppercase? Yes. Return it. Do I have join? Probably not. So if I try to do join, what will that return, guys? Name.join. Who said error? Huh? You said error? Undefined or error, what do you think?
Yeah, it should come up with an error. If you try to do name.join, I think.
Yeah, join can't be run on name.
That's correct. That's correct. So name.join is undefined. Yeah? But the problem, so we're making the problem even worse, right? We took undefined and we invoke it. That doesn't work, right? We cannot invoke a function on undefined. That throws an error. The error will say, cannot invoke function join undefined, something like that, Join is not a function. Yes, agree on that. Yeah. So this is a prototype chain of strings. But now, obviously, we can change the example a bit. So instead of dealing with strings, we can deal with arrays, right? We can have a list of names equals Peter and Kim. So now, if I display, let me change the prototype again, right? So I'll simplify that a bit. So an array of Peter and Kim. So if I display names, it will return the first box. Yeah. But if I display names.join, in that particular case, will it work or not? Yeah. Yes, correct. Why? It's an array. So because JavaScript knows that's an array, it will refer to the array prototype. Tell me, I need at least 8 methods on the array prototype, which is probably the most extensive one. Merge. No. Concat, yes. Rest, wrong. Filter, right. Find. Split. Reduce. Sort. Map. For each. For what? For in, wrong. You cannot do array.forIn, that doesn't make sense. We're talking about methods that we apply on arrays. We're missing a few more. Which one? Push, correct. What else? Pop. Shift. Unshift. Slice. Splice. More. There. Split. I think it's there already, right? Split. No, wait a minute. No. Split doesn't make sense. I thought. Split works on strings. Oh. Yeah? It's there already. It's there. It's there? Where is it? Oh, this split. No, that's wrong. Sorry. Split is not. What else? Reverse. Correct. 2 more. Three more, actually. There is replace. Find is there already. So we got 3 more challenge points. 1 point. Oh yeah, that was what you are committed to find, right? Yes. Which one?
I think we already had
Join. Join is not there. That's correct. Who was that? Was it Mo? Okay, so 1 point for Mo, but I want 3 more. Mo plus 1. I'll give you a hint, but you only get half a point, right? This is not going to be for free. Slice is there already. Splice is there already. Come on, we're broadcasting in 4K. You should be able to see all the details. Length. Nice one, Poppy. Nice one. Length. So, Poppy, 1 point. 3 more. Well done. Well done. Every in some. Yes. Actually, this is one of the I was thinking about. So not every. ISL, 2 points. 1 more. Which one? 2 string. 2 string. I don't think so. 2 string works with numbers, but with arrays? No. What? Okay, yeah, that's all right. It's here. It's in my mind. Which one? Reverse is there already. One more. Modern JavaScript.
Call? No?
Call, wrong.
From?
Wrong. Bind, wrong. It's a simple, it's a relatively simple one. We talked about that. Do you remember there was a question on the intermediate training that says, I got A, B, C, A exclamation mark, B exclamation mark. That's the correct one, Poppy. Oh, Poppy gets 2 points. That's girl power, right? 4 points for the ladies. Yeah. 1 point for someone joining remotely, right? So no one here got a point. Clearly not Itamar, who is looking at the phone. Yeah. Again. So this is clearly why, at the end of the day, when we do expert training, we tend to transform everything into an array, because you can see how many utilities, array have. So yeah, that's pretty much the way it works. Let me display another example. So what happened if we talk about functions, right? So I'm going to create a function. So the function is going to be function hello, right? With whatever. So function hello will be here, right? So if I invoke hello, that box will resolve it. But do you know what do we have on the right hand side? On the function prototype, what do we have here? Window, wrong. So function prototype means you can do function dot something, right? The prototype is always an object. That's why at the end of the day in JavaScript everything is an object.
Okay, I'm going to stick my neck out. Some advanced ones.
Can you come to the stage?
Oh no, seriously.
Of course you do.
How about the async stuff? So then and catch.
Then and catch. Wrong.
Call, apply, bind.
Right.
Yay.
Call, apply, and bind. That's correct. Yeah. Why? Because we can do hello dot call. Yeah. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Sure. What's the first argument of call? What?
An array.
Wrong. Call doesn't receive any array at all. No? Call? No one? How many times I told you you'll never get a job without understanding that, right? These are the two most important things in JavaScript, the first two questions on every job interview. Prototypal inheritance and lexical this, yeah? These two things.
With call, you apply some
This.
function, yeah?
Yes, so this is the context. So if that function return this dot name here as the first argument, we can pass an object name equals whatever. Yeah? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
If not, please rewind,
Rewatch.
rewatch the video, please. This is not important. This is the most important thing. Yeah. So no excuses. Yeah. So I hope you got the idea, right, of how the prototype change works. But that could be a bit more complicated, and that will be the last problem or the last scenario of the day. Look at the example I'm going to write now. I'm going to create an object. let user1 equals name Peter. Yeah. And then I'm going to do, look at that, let user2 equals object, big O, dot create user1. Actually, not just the name, but I want the age as well. Name and age 27. So now I'm typing user.age equals 31. So if I return, not user, user2. If I return user2.age, what will that return?
What to create?
27, maybe. Why 27?
I don't know how create works, but I'm hoping that because you called user1,
Yep. So Jaf is not convinced about that.
No, 31.
31.
Yeah, that's one.
Okay, so you think user2.age returns 31. And what user2.name returns?
Just a second. It says let user two, right? Okay.
Yep.
So we already created new variable of user two.
Yep.
So this user two might be, and its object create user one. So
Yep.
passing the user one's details in that. So probably would be age 27, name Peter.
So Aysel says this is age 27, this is name Peter. Jaf said this is age 31, name. Anyone else? I'm not going to tell you the answer, but I'm going to draw a diagram that will help you to realize whether you are right or wrong. So the way the diagram works is this will be user2. Name undefined. Okay, that's a different and exotic approach. So we got user2. Pens are dying, right? Then we got user1. And then we got the object prototype. Yep. Whatever we got in there. So that's the way prototypal inheritance, or that's the diagram, right? When we do let user2 equals object.create, essentially we're creating an empty box on the left that will refer to user1. Then we, as part of user2, we are creating a new property called age. Yeah? So the way that works is user2.age, that's the first box. Do I have the age property here? Yeah. Return it. User2.age equals 31. And then user2.name. Do we have name property here? No. Okay, don't give up yet. Next box. Do we have the name here? Yeah. Yes. Return it. Yeah? prototypal inheritance. Object.create was introduced in 2015. Before that, there were different ways to achieve prototypal inheritance, and after that, there are also new ways to do that using classes. You know, when you create a stateful component in React, tell me the name. I'm going to create a React component. I was going to call it Jaegerbomb, but probably there are kids watching that video. So let's find something a bit for all the audiences. So let's create a component called whiteboard, right? So how do we create a whiteboard component and export it? No, wait. I want to write the entire line. I want to create a component. We don't care about the content, but I want the first line, right? How is it? Export. What else? Default. Class.
Name of the class.
Board. Extends. Component. Correct. That component, that extends component, that's the newest way in JavaScript to say, okay, this is my board component and this is my component, right? That's the reason why here you can use constructor, you can use component mount, you can use render, you can use component main, component update, you can use component will and mount, all these methods, right? Yeah? Set into global scope. No, not really. This is still local, right? So this is a new variable, which is a class called board. So board will be here, and it extends from component. So we have another box here called component that is offered by React. Yeah. So yeah. So in that particular case, yes, we are overwriting the age because user2 comes first, right? So if you try to access user2.age, even though age is in both sides, but this one comes first, right? If you do user1.age, what will it return? 27, correct. Prototypal inheritance is unidirectional. User2 extends from user1, but not vice versa. Yeah? So if we point to user2, we start looking here. If we point to user1, we start looking there. Yeah? Any question?
Isn't this very similar to what we came across when we were looking at inheriting from window?
No. That's lexical this. So these are different objects. No, we don't inherit from window at all. No. Okay. It's completely unrelated.
The answer is here is age.
I don't know. You tell us.
Ah, you haven't told us.
I told you already, but you can.
Name Peter.
So you think user2.age is 27?
Yeah.
No? Why 20? Okay. Why 27, Aisel?
I thought it's override. Okay.
Remember, it works in that direction, right? Yeah. So user2, that means, first of all, we look in that box. Do you have the age property here, Aisel?
Age?
Yes? Correct? Then just return it. Okay. Ignore everything else. Yeah?
If it wasn't, we would take from user.
That's a good question. Last question of the day, actually. What happens if now I do delete user2.age and then I display user2.age? That's correct. That's correct. When we delete, this is probably you've used already, we essentially removing it. Yeah? So when we do user2.age, it's the same process, right? First we go here. Oops. Do we have the age property in this box? No. Not anymore, right? We've deleted. No problem at all. check on the next one. Do we have age property in user one? Yes, we do. So then return it. Yeah. As you can imagine, this is a hierarchical mechanism. So that means we can, of course, do let user free equals object dot create, and then we can decide what's the prototype of user free. So we can select user one. So if we select user one, that means that we'll be adding a new box here. So that will be user free, referring to that box, right? But if we extend from user two, that won't be true at all. So it will be like that. That's the prototype chain in JavaScript.
So whenever you introduce a new variable, it goes one direction.
It's one direction, as far as you create it like that, of course. Because if I now do user for equals name Ashley, this is completely unrelated, right? We got user for here, user for, completely unrelated, still depending on the object prototype, but that's it.
But if you pass user free and then age, for example, that would return user free.
If you pass user,
In here, like under the user two, on the top. Yeah, here. Like if you put.
if you point with your finger from 3 meters, right? Can you come here and explain that?
No, I mean like if you write user free age.
You can do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, my writing is not that great. User free age.
User free age or user free dot age.
Adult age. Yeah.
Correct.
Um,
Yeah, user free dot age, right?
And for example, 20.
Yep.
So that would return 20. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. If you, of course, yeah. If you do user free dot age, it will return 20. But if you do user 2 dot age, it will still return.
No, we delete it.
Okay, if we delete it, yeah, fair enough. If we delete user 2 dot age, and then we do user 2 dot age, what will it return?
User free.
No, wait.
Sorry.
So look, this is a diagram, right?
Yeah.
So let's draw it. It's a good example. So user free dot age is 20. So that means here you got age 20. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we display user free dot age, then we have age here.
Yeah.
Return it 20. Now if we do user 2 dot age, we go here. We won't go there because this is unidirectional. Look at the arrows. The arrows point to the direction. Yeah, you see?
But if you pass here user free instead of user one.
Okay, fair enough. What happened? If we pass user free there,
So here would be user free instead of user one.
that
And user one goes here. Not here. No?
that's a bit weird, Aisel, because at this stage we haven't even created user free yet, right? We create user free here. So- but that doesn't make sense because you create user free from user 2, and then you create user 2 from user free.
Is this different? Talking about this bit.
But you don't have user free here yet. That's you got user 1 and user 2. That's it. So then that doesn't make sense. You create user free later on.
Okay.
Yeah. So prototypal inheritance is unidirectional, right?
It's only working with object create, prototype.
There are essentially two ways in modern JavaScript to do it. First of all, object.create,
Yeah.
and then classes. You create a new class, Aisel extends Azerbaijan,
You mean-
for instance. Does that make
You mean
sense?
for the React?
No, listen.
for the
Classes is not about React. It's a JavaScript thingy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So classes is a new thing introduced in 2015. Yeah. I know that an important part of the JavaScript community is against classes because they're inherited from the backend from Java and all these things. Yeah. But they are part of the standard. So you can like them or not, but they are part of the standard. So with classes, you can do export default ACL extends component. So that's a way to create prototypal inheritance, because you have here your class ACL, you have here the class component. Yeah.
There's I saw in some articles or books
Yep.
talking about modern JavaScript starting to use modules. Are they talking about this, or is it something else?
Modules, no. So essentially a module is when you do export, default, that's a module, right? And then when you do import, you import the module, yeah? Anything else? No? Did that make any sense at all? Prototypal inheritance?
So if we go to an interview, if they ask us about this prototype,
Don't say if, say when,
when
because that will happen, yeah? So when you go to an interview,
write these boxes and explain the way you explain that.
so the question will be, Jana speaking, what prototypal inheritance is in JavaScript? And then you can say prototypal inheritance is the way JavaScript determines the value of the properties based on the prototype chain. And then you explain what the prototype chain is. It's a bunch of virtual boxes if you want. So whenever you check a property, then it will check on the variable itself. If it's there, it will return it. If not, it will drill down to the different elements on the prototype chain. And eventually, the last element, it's always the prototype of the type of data. Could be a string, could be arrays, could be objects, could be functions, could be whatever. And if eventually the data you are looking for is not even part of the type, of the data type, prototype, it will return what? Wrong. Undefined, correct, Michael, yeah? So when you display a variable and it returns undefined, it's because JavaScript quickly went through that process and the data was nowhere, right? It's missing, it returns undefined.
Ricardo, I came across with some examples where it was saying that some, for example, name, then dot prototype.
Yeah.
Yes. Is it connected to this?
Yeah. So as I said, so in modern JavaScript, we got object.create, we got classes, extend, but if you search all JavaScript, right? If you read the Douglas Crackford book, JavaScript, the good parts, you will see he talks about doing things like underscore proto, right? So there were different strategies to do that, right? So if you're curious about that, I will recommend you to at least get an idea about how that works. Why? Because in the job interview, they will ask you, how can you achieve prototypal inheritance? How can you manage that? You can talk, usually object.create, ES6, ES5, well, anyway, object.create, you can use classes, or in classic JavaScript, you can play with a prototype object, yeah?
It's definitely useful to, even though we're focusing on modern, it's definitely useful to have some of those old ways of doing things, because you're likely in a job environment to come across a code base that has got some of those, right? No? 2003, 2015?
It depends how old the code is, of course, right? Yeah, it's not that unusual to find these kind of things in the code, yeah? That's why, for instance, if you search on a Stack Overflow, so the very last thing of the day.
Another last thing.
Yeah, not the last thing. The last thing.
Continue till the end of the
Yeah.
day.
So if you search, for instance, in how can I convert an array, right, of foo and bar, how can I transform it into an array of capital words? Foo and bar, yeah, everything in capitals. How would you do that? As a beginner, right? Pretty much. So,
To uppercase.
yeah. To uppercase what?
This.
Wrong. Right. So ACL, that's red. Wrong. Oops. How do you transform an array of elements into an array of capital elements?
Ah.
Dot join.
Yeah, because you need to get to string and then to
Join. Okay. Cool. Let's do that, right? So you got my array is called Poppy. So I do Poppy dot join. Join what?
the what probably me. It's whatever the name of the array is. No, it's
dot.
not. Nothing in it. Ignore that. Brackets.
Brackets.
Quotation marks.
Quotation marks.
Together, no space.
Together, no space.
Okay. And then
Smiley face.
yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say
Parentheses.
parentheses.
Why everybody struggles to pronounce? I should struggle more than you, right? to pronounce.
Parentheses is American.
Ah, you said brackets.
Brackets is English.
Yeah, but okay. But what kind of brackets? Because you got curly brackets, you got square brackets. So if you
Curved brackets.
curve, okay, curve brackets. If that makes any sense. But
Parents.
okay, parents. Yeah, okay.
The world is American. Probably.
And then what? Empty, yeah? Okay, and then what? Dot to uppercase.
But then you will get no. Yeah.
Yeah, I disagree.
Okay, wrong. What else? Who else? Itamar.
I think it should be dot join.
Poppy dot join.
Yep. And then we should leave a space.
Space.
Yeah, between.
Yeah?
Right.
Okay.
Oh,
And
Yeah, and then after we have the space, we would have to do more. So then we could change it to dot uppercase, but then more would have to be done. So we'd have to change it back into an array.
and then what?
Then we might want to dot split.
Okay, let me change the example a bit. This is not bar. This is bar space Itamar.
Okay.
Yeah?
That kind of confused me. So we don't have this
Oh, sorry.
the original.
No, he's saying that.
Okay,
Implicit.
we have
in the
Itamar.
original.
We have, yeah, it's here, of course, right? Bar Itamar.
Alright.
Still two elements, but each element may be a sentence with the spaces in between, yeah?
Oh, I see. So we can't. Okay, so we can't use. Alright.
Right, who else?
I would do a loop,
Okay.
for loop, and then do the.
I'm not going to use a for loop. I'm just going to use methods we've been talking about today in the array prototype.
For each.
For each. Easier. Ashley. I mean, call me crazy. Maybe I'm. Correct. Map. And then we got item. And then what?
Item the uppercase.
To uppercase. Correct. Correct. Yeah, that will work regardless of what do we have, right? To be honest, I completely forgot why I'm asking that question because I was like, yeah. So if you go to Stack Overflow, which you shouldn't do often, but if you do that, that's one possible answer, right? But something that sometimes, probably not that, it's not that often, but in classic JavaScript. So what they will tell you, and don't take that completely like working code, it's kind of pseudo code, but they will tell you to do something like that. Array dot prototype
Yeah, that's what.
dot transform to uppercase. So that will be a function, and then few things here. Why they do that? Does anyone know why people suggest to do array.prototype blah blah blah? Because if you do that, essentially you are, do you remember this set of boxes? The last one, what's the last box? That's the prototype of what? Wrong.
Last one.
The prototype of this data type. What data type we got here? Array, correct. Do you remember the methods on the array prototype? Yeah? So essentially what we are doing with that pattern is we are adding a new method in the prototype called transform blah 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 blah. So we're extending extending the array prototype. Why this is beneficial? Because after doing that, we can do poppy dot transform blah 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 blah. We're extending the standard of JavaScript. Yeah? So that's a pattern. I'm not a big fan of that pattern. Can anyone see why that pattern is a bit dangerous? To add the stuff to the prototype of the native data type. What happened if next year in JavaScript 2020 they decide to add a transform method to the array prototype? We have a conflict because we'll be overriding something that they are introducing to the standard, right? That's why I find, even though that looks very sexy, right? Poppy.transform.
No, but all your arrays are going to end up inheriting nonsense, right?
Yeah. No, which is a good thing. If you need to do that all the time, it's convenient, right? So we got the split, we got reduce, we got map. A few years ago, we didn't have any of that. And that's why these kind of things were useful. Because how many times you are doing for each and map? All the time, right? So you do that all the time. It's not such a crazy idea to add these new sexy functions to the array prototype, yeah? But still, because I like functional programming, if I do ever want to transform an array into an array of capital characters, I will create a function called transform to capitals, transform to uppercase, whatever, and I will simply do transform passing poppy as the argument, functional programming, right? I find it a bit more elegant, or at least, aligned with the common best practices of JavaScript development. Anything else, guys? No?